Halnir Cave. For those following the development of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, that name has almost become synonymous with dungeon design. It's been the backdrop for more developer live streams, demo reel footage, and discussions than any other location in-game. Amber Fate's a close second, but nothing's been shown off more than the depths of Halnir Cave. In the near future, Visionary Realms, the developers of Pantheon, are slated to hold their first pre-alpha testing session of 2022. In past pre-alpha sessions, Halnir Cave has been a very popular spot, as creative director Chris Joppa Perkins mentions here from the June Developer Roundtable.
Even with all the exploration that went on in Halnir's Cave during testing, there were still so many areas that players didn't find. They had no clue was right under their noses. And plus, with that dungeon in particular, you can expect to see more of it unfolding over time, specifically post-launch. We've got some pretty significant plans for that dungeon and some of what it, some of the secret sauce that it's connected to in some respects. But there are currently, for example, 2 specific places I can point to right now, areas in Halnir Cave that open up into brand new sections that are dependent on, I don't want to spoil it, but one of them is dependent on a specific ability and an effect that a specific ability provides, and the other one is dependent on a special traversal mechanic that is not currently accessible through the content that's available right now. It doesn't drop anywhere. It's not able to be acquired yet.
If that doesn't entice you to want to delve into this dungeon, check your pulse, because when I hear undiscovered locations and secret places, my heart begins to race.
Oh, what is this area? Whoa. The music just changed. What am I looking at?
Chris likes to sneak little new areas in and old areas that we've never seen.
That's pretty cool.
Question is, how do you get there?
That is a good question.
I can fit.
This is kind of a climactic moment in one of the perception storylines. I'm not going to say really anything about it or spoil anything about it, but it's just is an example of embedded into the different adventuring areas, even just an offshoot of like a major encounter area in this dungeon. You have these little moments that you can discover.
Let's do a deep lore dive and start discovering Halnir Cave. Let's situate ourselves in the world first. Halnir Cave is notably close to the human city of Thronefest, but was never claimed. The lore notes, historically, humans have had a waxing interest in Halnir due to its unsettling dangers and difficult terrain. Because of this, Halnir has never been properly annexed by Thronefest, and they treat it like a back alley of forgotten folklore. The entrance sits at the western border of Avendir's Path, just before the orc lands of Hangor to the north. Perhaps the humans see this as a buffer that keeps them safe, or perhaps they just have greater concerns. The lore notes, there's a saying in the great city, Halnir is near enough to fear, but not close enough to dread. Yet the residents of Avendir's Pass, where the cave mouth begins, wouldn't be so bold. As we stand at the cave mouth, peering into the shadows, we wonder what's come before us, for Halnir Cave was not always as it is upon our arrival. The lore tells us, at one point it was dominated by goblins, but they have yielded the territory to more aggressive and persistent foes. In fact, there are currently no Halnir goblins still living in the cave, and it's fair to wonder why that is. The question left to linger on our minds is who or what are the more aggressive and persistent foes which lurk in the darkness, such as the temptation of most dungeons. But nor was Halnir actually known by this name either at one time. One could assume Halnir was the name of some intrepid explorer, or perhaps a great creature which calls the cave home, but the truth is neither. We're told Halnir's namesake actually originated with human exploration. In their search for resources after the Deicide War, human scouts marked the cave system as Halnir, a reference to the once active goblin hall therein. Over time, the description was shorthanded to Halnir, and was formalized as Halnir Cave in 652 IH. Okay, enough history lessons for now, let's enter the cave. The first thing you're likely going to notice are the abundant crystals, which give Halnir not only a menacing facade, but also its primary source of illumination. What are these called? Those are Celestium crystals, a rare gem that can draw and store arcane energy over eons. Players can expect to encounter various forms of Celestium all across Terminus, primarily in caves like Halnir. Further research from Fortress Devair tells us that Celestium absorbs and amplifies ambient magical energy in different ways. The larger the concentration of Celestium, the greater the effects. Larger quantities of Celestium have been known to warp the world around them, typically in very dangerous ways. What effect have these crystals had on Halnir Cave, one wonders? Let's continue. The creatures near the entrance may be easily dispatched, like these spiders, yet there will be several variations in the creatures we come across. Some will be a fair fight, yet others, within a short distance, may be much scarier. The spiders, ratkin, and other inhabitants won't all fit into a range that your group can just tear through. You'll need to be careful. As the developers have told us, you could be standing on a bridge, killing level 12 ratkins, but have level 25 plus mobs in the pit below you. Halnir Cave has showcased the design philosophy of mixed content that Pantheon is going for. And with mixed content comes a mixed player population. As we push deeper into Halnir Cave, it quickly becomes clear we share the dungeon with more and less experienced groups. Those we aspire to be, and those we once were. VR has told us, one of the things we're doing with our dungeons and zones in general is making sure they scale and have pockets of content, some higher, some lower, but it will all be open world. It won't be uncommon for a low-level player to see higher-level players making their way to some of the more dangerous areas of the cave. But let's not lose sight of why we're here though. The lore. Okay, both. We're told, filled with dark, winding caverns and toxic fumes from the crystal formations that natively grow there, Drawn Ratkin and Black Rose battle for territory in the upper levels of the cave, unaware of the ancient evil brooding in the deepest chambers. Drawn Ratkin have been detailed in several lore volumes, but to connect them to Halnir Cave, note Ratkin have a primitive but intense interest in the Celestium crystals that decorate the cave. While they are not skilled enough to craft the raw stone into items of magnificence, they can apply trace amounts of the Celestium dust and enhance other items with it. Never mind the Ratkin though. As alluded to here and earlier, something much more sinister dwells in the depths of Halnir Cave. In the June 2022 Developer Roundtable, a name was dropped that may have revealed this presence.
Do we feel that Halnir is too linear? They go on to say, sure, that they think there are branches to Harathena or down to Sangshar, but it mostly feels like, Ratkin to Black Rose to Wraiths to them. The branches are just little tangents that you follow to their end and then walk back along them to the main line. Are there plans to add any more connections from one path to another, or even from one part or level of the dungeon to another? They think that this would make zones feel less linear and give savvy players ways to avoid trains while still providing other players with more opportunities to get lost and die, which is also fun.
Going deeper, we find some interesting inhabitants that suggest this cave may be more than just a one-way street. As the developers noted in a previous newsletter when speaking of Halnir Cave, players may end up going so deep into the dungeon that they discover another zone line via secret passage, door, etc. This was further commented on in general in the June 2022 newsletter when Joppa said this.
This kind of multi-tiered approach to dungeons, not just like, hey, I'm in the same place, but I've just found a way to go deeper, but I've actually found myself almost like accessing a whole nother dungeon that, maybe there's another entrance to it somewhere, but I've almost found kind of an unexpected entryway into it, and it's something completely different. Absolutely.
So where do the depths of Halnir Cave deliver us? There's not many options looking at the map, and it's not hard to imagine that we may emerge in an unexpected place. As previously noted, the Drawn Ratkin and Black Rose are in conflict in Halnir Cave, and so the pieces begin to fall into place. But while we're fending off Ratkin and outlaws, we should also be on the lookout for creatures such as these imps, located in a lower chamber through a false floor. Make not the mistakes of past adventurers and be mindful of their traits, such as certain elemental attacks, making them stronger, or face the punishment of your own firepower. We end our delve today with the final mystery that Halnir Cave presents, that being the cult of 582. While not seen in recent times, these humans have quite the backstory. Listen closely to the tale from the March 2018 newsletter. The cult of 582 are an Althiran cult of death, which started as a taboo fancy among certain members of Thronefastian aristocracy. Like many vices that begin as an innocent interest in darkness, 582's membership was driven to deeper indulgences over just a few years. When they were eventually betrayed, a surprising number of the cult chose to withdraw from Thronefast altogether. The mysteries they once pursued out of boredom and excess had transformed into an inescapable obsession. Sadly, 582 found what they were looking for. Their fate, while unique, is shared by multiple populations across the globe. Their story connects back to one of the older bases of power on Terminus, although it is a weak and distant relationship. To dig a little deeper here, the Book of the Avaloth, a tome detailing the human deities, notes Altheros is known as the Keeper of the Damned. It states, his followers are notorious in reputation and appearance, wearing locks about their robes. This order practices the forbidden worship of the Keeper of the Damned. The worship of Altheros is banned in modern Thronefast, yet the reclusive order is growing in the dark light of hidden places, and is best avoided at all costs. It's worth noting that some Banshee have been drawn to sanctuaries dedicated to Altheros, though their ends are not well understood. So, in my opinion, this is the mystery at the heart of Halnir Cave, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Deep lore dives like this are my favorite type of content that we produce here at Pantheon Plus, but it's not all we do. If you want to stay up to date every week with Pantheon's development, check out our podcast, The Rewind, or the News and Opinions playlist for commentary when big news drops. Or maybe you want to check out our gameplay streams from other MMOs while we wait for Pantheon? The MMORPG 101 playlist has you covered. Whatever your preference, subscribing to the channel will keep you connected. But until next time, cheers, and thanks for watching.